Hello, what's up and welcome back to the channel. My name is Andy and today we are back to review the 2019 German Grand Prix, and holy frigging god, what a bloody race we seen yesterday. Obviously if you haven't somehow watched it, go watch it and then come back and listen to this review. Again though, we're going to get straight into it pretty much as quickly as possible, but real quickly, as normal, if you haven't already done so, do hit subscribe. Bell icon will notify you any videos when they go live. Like a video if you do enjoy listening back to it all in my own style, and comment below what your thoughts were on a crazy German Grand Prix. Real quickly though, into the start of the weekend, the introduction side of things, some of the rumours and things that were happening. So Mercedes had a retro livery to celebrate their 200th Grand Prix and 125 years in motorsports. A lot of people were on it. I don't mind that. I think it was quite alright. It was white with the flacking of the paint, turning it into silver, which obviously then links back to years gone by as well. I didn't mind that. I thought it was quite alright actually, personally. They also had retro pit gear and stuff like that as well, which was quite cool, flat caps and everything. Also beforehand, we had in the week before two F1 drivers winning a virtual Spa 24 hours, Lando Norris and Max Verstappen being part of a fourth-man team to win the iRace and Spa 24 hours, top tier, despite the fact that Max's brake pedal broke with 15 minutes to go. That was quite funny if you haven't seen that already. And the last part would be the driving market starting to just pick up a little bit. I think most of the market is going to hinge on two things. It's going to hinge on what happens at Mercedes. Is it going to be Bottas again, or will they replace him with Ocon? And if they do keep Bottas, it's then going to hinge on Hockenheim at Renault, because he feels he's going to still be there, but there is some worry in regards to that. Also, Haas is a bit unsure as well. That might even happen before the end of this season, but for 2020, those are the two major points in the market. Once those fall into place, everything else will kind of come with it. But we shall see in due course. Summer break is coming up after next week's race, so that's usually where things start happening. Into practice itself, and Ferrari were the first ones to lay down the marker. Vettel heading 1-2. But they used the softs. Mercedes were only on the mediums. Bottas went off towards the end of the session, I think it was, but he didn't have any damage. Magnussen brought out an early red flag when his car just died coming into the stadium section, and he got towed back. FP2 was still a Ferrari 1-2. This time they switched it. It was Leclerc on top from Vettel. Hamilton was on 110 from Gasly. Oh God's sake, Pierre. Gasly crashing out at the final corner and wrecking his car. He actually needed a new chassis, and I think that's the third time Red Bull have had to build a new chassis in about four races now. It's crazy. Into FP3, Leclerc on top again, Verstappen in second this time. Mercedes half a second down, and were split by Kevin Magnussen's Haas as well. So qualifying was looking interesting. People were getting their hopes up that Ferrari were going to do something good here this weekend. And then Q1, Vettel goes out of pit lane, and he's on the radio because he's got no power. Turbo intercooler issue. He ended up back in the garage, and he did not set a time, meaning the German four-time world champion in the Ferrari would start from 20th on the grid. Ouch. And it was going to get worse as well for Ferrari, but we'll come on to that. Also out in Q1 were the two Williams cars, along with Lando Norris and Alexander Albon. Albon not happy, as he felt he was blocked by Norris on his fast lap. It did mean for the first time since, I think it's Japan last year, Lance Stroll got out of Q1. Which I'm sure he'll be happy with. Q2 was Stroll, who was out along with Kvyat, Ricciardo, Magnussen and Giovinazzi. The midfield is really close. I mean, you're talking like hundredths between some of them. It was really tight there. Raikkonen got through. He set a purple sector 2 on his final run as well, so he would have been chuffed with that. Alpha looking pretty decent around the Hockenheim ring, excuse me. And then in Q3, Hamilton from absolute nowhere, 3 times quicker than anybody else, shoves it on pole position. It's Verstappen in second, Bottas, Gasly, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Sainz and Perez In ninth, Leclerc, P10. He was unable to set a lap time in Q3. It was rumoured that it was a fuel system issue. Things going from bad to worse for Ferrari already. Oh boy. And then we get to Sunday. And when we get to Sunday, it's raining. And everybody's looking at the clouds and the rain's falling and stopping and falling and stopping. There was a wonder before the race if it might be intermediates or wets, but everybody ended up going on wets as it was. For most of the teams, this would be the first time in full wet conditions with the 2019 spec tyres, and for some of the drivers, first time they've been properly out in wet conditions as well on the full wets, so that would have made it interesting. Norris moved back a few places to P19. He made some changes to the power unit, and they'd done the formation lap. They started the race basically behind the safety car. They'd done the formation lap, and I think it was 3 actual racing laps technically were done behind the safety car, but then they pulled up onto the grid and done a actual standing start, which was really, really good to see. It made it 64 laps rather than 67 technically at racing speed, and then as the lights went out, Verstappen and Gasly both getting poor starts in the Red Bull. It's the third race in a row that's happened. Bottas and Raikkonen managing to jump the Dutchman. Giovinazzi ran wide into turn 2, Hulkenberg passed Grosjean and Sainz into turn 6, 3 wide. Leclerc was already up to P6 from P10, Vettel was already up to P14 from P20, so he was doing pretty well as well, and Carlos Sainz running wide a few times off the track as well, trying to avoid cars around him. It was a pretty chaotic first lap, as you can imagine, in the rain. However, everybody made it round with no damage to the cars, which is a lot more than can be said for an F1 2019 online lobby. Anyway, that's a different story. On to the second lap, Verstappen passed Raikkonen pretty easily into turn 6. Magnussen, Perez and Sainz were battling before Perez then spun into the wall out of turn 11, and then straight away the safety car is deployed. That racing point was stuck. And although it was to the right hand side off the racing line, because it was wet, they're going to have to put men on the track to get it rid of it. The safety car was deployed. Vettel and Albon pitted and changed on the inters before pretty much the entire field came round the next lap and put the intermediate tyres on. The only ones who didn't, Kevin Magnussen, Lance Stroll, Lando Norris and the 2 Williams of Russell and Kubica. This meant that Magnussen was P2, Stroll was up to P5, and Norris, Russell and Kubica were 8th, 9th and 10th by the end of lap 3, so that was quite an interesting one. Leclerc was released into the path of Grosjean in pit lane. He would end up under investigation for that, and they would decide to fine Ferrari rather than punish the driver. Now, I'm in two minds about that. One part of me says good, don't punish the driver, he's just left when the team have told him to. So yeah, don't punish the driver for it. I've not got a problem with that. But the downside and the other flip side to that is if teams think that a unsafe release is just going to get them a fine, will they just go, sod it and hit the button? You know what I mean? Then you're running the risk of safety in pit lane, and especially at a time like that when everybody's pitting under a safety car. So I liked it in one way, but I'm not too sure in another, as long as it doesn't become a regular occurrence, basically. Is the problem. It took till lap 5 for the race to restart. Leclerc passed Stroll pretty easily into P5 as he went into turn 2. Bottas and Verstappen passed Magnussen pretty easily before turn 6 as the Haas was struggling on the wet tyres. Leclerc passed Magnussen the next lap round before running wide at turn 2, came back on in front of Magnussen, and Hulkenberg passed Magnussen and went, oh, thank you very much. Hulkenberg looked like he was going to have a go at Leclerc, but was unable to get anywhere on the Ferrari, and those that stayed out on the wets were really struggling. Norris pitted lap 7, Raikkonen and Magnussen were battling most of lap 7, but the Alpha obviously got by. It did take until lap 8 before he did into turn 2, but eventually did. Vettel got involved in it as well, and Vettel got past Magnussen at turn 6, so that was then the German up into, I believe that was 8th place at that point, so really, really moved up. The unsafe release was obviously then announced it was under investigation. Magnussen finally pitted at the end of lap 9. The Williams had pitted as well during this period. Gasly had dropped all the way down to P14 during everything, which was not good for him. And then on lap 12, Leclerc goes wide in the final corner, gets a big slide on. He kind of just crossed the curb into where the drag strip is at the back of the last corners, and the car just tried to rotate on him. Good save, drifted it through, but not what you want to be doing, that's for absolute sure. He did manage to keep it going. Mercedes were advising its drivers to keep grooves in the intermediate tyres as it could rain again, but the track was drying out very quickly in some places. The contours and the cambers of the Hockenheim ring, meaning that the rain was actually running to the side of the track in some places, meaning it dried up very, very quickly. That was obviously burning out the grooves on the intermediate tyre. And in lap 14 we seen smoke coming from the back of Daniel Ricciardo's Renault, going down towards turn number 6. He pulled off at turn 19. It deployed a virtual safety car, which seen Charles Leclerc coming into the pits for some new intermediate tyres. It was a slow stop due to the front right tyre being a bit sticky. Hulkenberg also pitted as well. Leclerc stayed P4 and the virtual safety car ended as he rejoined, so that was absolutely perfect for him. But another engine failure, another engine issue for Renault is definitely not what they need coming up to the next lot of races. Hulkenberg lost a place to Raikkonen during the pit stop phase, so he dropped down to P6. Lap 17, Verstappen tries to sneak up the inside of Bottas, so Bottas was taking a wide line through the hairpin at turn 6. So Verstappen tried to see if he could take the inside line, but the rear broke away, slid, and that dropped him a lot of time pretty quickly. But he did make that time back up pretty quickly as well. He was dropped down to like 3-4 seconds, and within a lap he was within a second and a half again, so he was definitely enjoying the track better than the Finn. But behind him, Leclerc was going about 3.5 seconds faster on the new intermediate tyres than anyone else. Hulkenberg passed Raikkonen for P5, and then on lap 19 we see Carlos Sainz spin at the last corner, same thing as Leclerc did with his slide earlier, got onto the drag strip, which was extremely slippery. He kept it out of the ball, found reverse and kept going, but he dropped down to P15. He was in about P9 when that happened as well. But he was able to keep going, which was good for him at least. And then on lap 22, Bottas struggling as Verstappen closes. Hamilton's told rain in the stadium section, so it was all going off. I mean, it was just so much going on in this race, it was ridiculous. Kevin Magnussen decided to pit for soft tyres, rejoined in P16 on lap 22 as well. Lap 24, Vettel told but to pit and goes to the soft tyres also. He went from P7 to P11. Hamilton's lead was 8 seconds. Verstappen could not get the power down to get by on Bottas. Those rears intermediates in the Red Bull were pretty much worn away, and Leclerc was still slowly creeping up and gaining back that time from the pit stop. And Red Bull pulled the trigger lap 26 and went on to a set of medium tyres, which was a strange one, not going on the softs. There you go. So he pitted from P3, rejoined in P4, so he only lost one place. Multiple cars now came in for slicks as well. Bottas also went mediums, rejoined in P3, but Verstappen then spun through the final sector, that quick little left-right chicane before the final two corners. Spun across curb, no damage luckily for him, kept going, which was good for him. Norris pulled out of the race in lap 27, a loss of power. This brought out another virtual safety car, second one off the day. Leclerc pitted for soft, stayed in P2 due to the virtual safety car. Hamilton pitted next lap just as the virtual safety car ends, but he holds on to P1 despite a long stop as well. There's a wee bit of delay on one of the wheels too. Leclerc spins out of the final corner, and as well, because by this point, even though they'd moved to the slicks, the rain was coming back in again, and Leclerc, oh dear, got his tank slapper on, corrected it, ended up in the drag strip, which was as slippery as goodness knows what. Caught the wall, broke the rear wing. The car was still running. There was no suspension damage by the looks of it, but he beached the car, and that required a full safety car to be deployed. Worked well for his teammate though, who was able to pit for inters, and then under the safety car we get the glimpse, and it's from that picture at the top. Lewis Hamilton, in the lead of the race, goes off at the exact same point that Leclerc has just crashed out at. Thankfully no marshals or anything on the track. Same thing, even under safety car speeds, those slick tyres were just not gripping the greasy asphalt, and he went off, ended up damaging his front wing, as you can see, and then pulled back onto the track, obviously headed for pit lane, but did not enter pit lane the correct side of the bollard, which would come back to haunt him later on. The team weren't ready for him because it had happened so soon. It was a complete kerfuffle, and as someone pointed out, Mercedes celebrating 125 years by doing a pit stop that took as long as it would have done 125 years ago. 50 plus seconds to change tyres and to get that wing replaced, because they were having a bit of a meeting in the middle of all about, does he go on the slicks, do we put inters back on, we need to get the right tyres, they're trying to get tyres for Bottas out as well. It was a kerfuffle. Dropped him down to P5. Bottas was able to get in next lap, no problem for inters, so Verstappen's now in the lead. As he had pitted amongst that melee, he did not like those medium tyres. He said, get me off these, and they went on to the intermediate. So the Red Bull's now in the lead of the race. Unbelievable stuff. So yeah, Bottas is P3. Hamilton's under investigation for pitting the wrong side of the bollard, as mentioned. Your restart is Verstappen, Hülkenberg up in P2 at his home race. Bottas, Albon, Hamilton, Sainz, Raikkonen, Vettel, Gasly and Giovinazzi, the top 10. Your restart was on lap 34. Gasly passed Vettel before Vettel then repassed him, which was of course over 7th and 8th and 9th place. It wasn't noticed in Sky Sports. They thought it was Vettel attacking Gasly, when actually they restarted with a Ferrari ahead of the Red Bull, and the Red Bull got ahead briefly, but he managed to take that place back pretty quickly. Hamilton got a 5-second penalty for pitting the wrong side of that bollard, which would either be added to his race time or at his next pit stop. He still couldn't get his way past Albon. He was struggling. Verstappen checked out. He was nearly 5 seconds clear away in 2 laps, and again, quite quickly, parts of the track drying out again. And then we get another steward's bit about Hamilton being under investigation again for driving too slowly under the safety car. I'll come to that real quickly. I've not read the full details, but basically nothing came about with that. It was a strange anomaly based on the rules that they have, that meant he actually wasn't. He was still driving to the delta that he was expected to, so nothing came of that in the end anyway. That message though came just as he passed Albon out to turn 6 for P4. Bottas trying to get past Hülkenberg into turn 6 as well in lap 37, so this is only 3 laps after, and he did so with the DRS assistance. The DRS had been enabled. Hamilton done the same to Hülkenberg on the very next lap, so it's now Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton 1, 2, 3. Lap 40, Raikkonen's wide in the final corners. He loses 2 places, goes from 7th to 9th, but he's able to carry on using that finished driving skill across the greasy asphalt, and Vettel and Gasly were the 2 that benefited from that. And then lap 41, oh no, Nico Hülkenberg runs wide in the second last corner, gets on the drag strip, that greasy tarmac that's out there for that, which is completely soaking, slides and then hits the brakes and goes straight into the wall, beached the car. He was P4 at the time. It was looking good. Home race, and stuffed it. And consider what I mentioned in the intro, when you consider that for me he's one of the main key ingredients to the driver market for next year. There's rumours around he's going to be replaced. If Ocon doesn't get the Mercedes seat, will they finally be able to put Esteban in the Renault, that which was planned to happen this year, until Daniel Ricciardo showed up? You never know. That displayed another safety car, this time a full safety car, so we've now had 2 safety cars and 2 virtual safety cars to my tally. Max pitted again for fresh inters. The Merc stayed out. Vettel pitted as well, dropped him to P10. Lap 45 is when they restarted. Stroll pitted for slicks all the way down in P14. He only lost one place and was now P15 and last on the road. That was to be quite important to the end of his race. The restart was Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Albon, Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Kvyat up into the top 10 and Sebastian Vettel in 10th. Kvyat then pitted exactly first lap on the restart, as does Kevin Magnussen. They went for slick tyres straight away. So as soon as it was restarted, they were into pit lane. Hamilton nearly loses out P3 but holds on as Albon tried to make a wee move. So I think Hamilton made a mistake out of turn 2, I think, and the likes of Albon, Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen were just basically hounding the Mercedes up towards turn 6. Hamilton held on, Albon got hung out to dry and dropped all the way down to P8 from being in P4 because of it. So Sainz was now P4, having sneaked his way through following Hamilton, and nearly got Hamilton for P3 as well. I was jumping about going, go on Carlos, because I was looking forward to seeing a McLaren getting up there again. Verstappen and Bottas pitted, they were on to slicks. Hamilton goes on and joins the lead of the race now, as does Raikkonen. Vettel, Giovinazzi, Russell. Stroll's now P6, remember, having stopped under the safety car. Verstappen gets Russell for P6 pretty quickly. So that moved up Stroll to P5 actually. Hamilton, Raikkonen, Vettel, Giovinazzi all pitted next lap. Hamilton has to obviously wait 5 seconds, that drops him down the field, which means that on lap 47, for a very brief moment, the racing point of Lance Stroll was the leader of the German Grand Prix. Who would have thought that, eh? There you go. But he was leading briefly, however. Verstappen was on a charge and passed him into turn 6 in lap 48, and that was the end of that one. Verstappen, Stroll and Kvyat, top 3, Bottas P4, Hamilton down in P12. Toro Rossos are flying at this point in the drying track, really got some good grip. Albon past Gasly for P7, Kvyat trades fastest laps with Verstappen. Albon then passed Magnussen for P6 under DRS on lap 50. Gasly lost time running wide, is now defending from Vettel. Kvyat's chasing Stroll now for P2. The Russian's obviously got himself up there as well due to his pit stop, and he passed under DRS for P2 pretty easily into turn 6, and it's quite interesting that in a moment's time you'll see what I'm talking about. Vettel passed both Gasly and then Magnussen off screen, so he'd moved his way up now to what was P6 I believe. And lap 53 we see Hamilton off at turn 1. He's able to keep going. He'd done a huge 360 and somehow kept it out of the wall. So that was not too good for him, but at least he was still going. Vettel had managed to pass Albon for P6, Raikkonen passes Magnussen for P10, Grosjean on the next lap for P9, and then a replay shows that before all of that, Grosjean and Magnussen hit each other again. Oh god, Günther Steiner's swear jar must be absolutely full to the brim. And then, just to add further excitement into this race, lap 57, Bottas is out of the race. He could not get past Stroll. The Mercedes-powered Mercedes chassis could not get past the Racing Point chassis with a Mercedes in the back of it. That was incredible, considering that Kvyat with DRS had flew by. And later on, shortly after this restart anyway, Vettel done the same. Insane, absolutely insane. Bottas really pushing hard, came through 2-1, there's a dry line, he just got his left rear wheel onto the wet part and around she went. Unlike Hamilton, it did not go on a full 360, and when it did face the right way it was already in the wall and the Finn was out of the race, and it caused another safety car. So I think we're up to 3 of each by now. Hamilton goes in, pits again, gets some fresh tyres, but he's now last. We got a 4-lap sprint with a restart on lap 60. Your top 10 at this point is Verstappen, Kvyat, Stroll, Sainz, Vettel, Albon, Gasly, Raikkonen, Grosjean and Giovinazzi. There's a hell of a top 10, isn't it? Vettel outbreaks Sainz into turn 6 for P4 on the restart. Albon repassed Gasly, because Gasly had again managed to get the jump at the restart. He seems to at least get that part nailed down. DRS was enabled with free to go. Vettel passed Stroll for P3 pretty easily. Gasly then flies off the road, but there's no safety car or virtual safety car because he's well out of the way. He was trying to get a run on Albon coming out of turn 6 towards turn 7, and at the time that he moved right to take the right hand side, Albon started moving across to defend. Contact made, front wing and wheel knackered on the Red Bull, and he is out of the race. Toro Rosso did manage to carry on, and Vettel catched the other Toro Rosso for P2 on lap 36. But after all of that absolute mayhem, Max Verstappen takes his second victory in 3 races. The Honda partnership with Red Bull has got 2 wins in less than half a season already. Unbelievable. It was a slow start for Verstappen, but he kept pace early doors. Went on the medium tyres, had that spin. Then what they done was they corrected the mistake, got him back on the intermediates, then got him onto the intermediates at the right time as well, with everyone falling to PCs. Got into the lead of the race and never looked back. Second win, as I say, in 3 races. If it wasn't for Mercedes domination early doors, who knows, we could have that Red Bull up fighting for the championship. Vettel, wow. The pain and quality with the turbo issue meant he started last, kept out of trouble in the early stages with all the spray, moved up a number of places on lap number 1. Struggled with some of the tyres, especially the inters in that early stage. They were really off, but that last part of the race when he was on slicks, he was one of the quickest drivers on the track as he made his way up through the field and to take P2. And considering what happened last year and what happened on Saturday, I think he'll take that very happily indeed. And Kvyat on the podium for Toro Rosso. It's only Toro Rosso's second ever podium. Their first was when Sebastian Vettel won in Italy in 2008. Crikeys. It's the first time Kvyat has been on the podium, I think, for about 3.5 years as well, when he was at Red Bull. Hungary 2015, I think it was, when he was last on the podium. But he became a father on Saturday, so congratulations to him as well. And then finishes off with a podium on the Sunday. It's another solid race from the Russian. Capitalised well with what was going on. He was the second driver onto slicks after Stroll and just seemed to have a bit more pace in that Toro Rosso than the Racing Point did, and he just capitalised on that and managed to stay far enough ahead of everybody else to make sure he took that final podium, meaning that Honda took first and third. McLaren look a bit stupid now, don't they? Lance Stroll, his race was made by changing to slick tyres during the second safety car. He held off Bottas as well, which I was completely surprised at, but he couldn't keep either Vettel or Kvyat behind. P4 is a great result and his first time out of Q1, and I think 15 races, as I mentioned earlier. Japan 2018 last year was his last time out of Q1, so he'd been happy with that. Good points there for Racing Point. Sainz in P5, he was off track trying to avoid incidents quite a few times in lap 1, running well and then spun at the last corner, but kept it off the wall and kept the front wing, kept going. Only made 3 pit stops, did Carlos Sainz. Basically stayed in the wet or intermediate tyres until it was absolutely necessary to go on to the slicks, and that helped him to bring him back up the field. I was really wanting to see Carlos get on the podium, to be honest. It's been so long since McLaren had been on the podium. I think it was it Australia 2014, I think it was, first race of the hybrid era when they still had Mercedes engines with Kevin Magnussen taking the podium. It was the last time they were on it, so there you go. But it was another good race for him, more solid points. Albon in 6, he was another one with a solid race, good battles down the field as well. Got a bit mugged off, unfortunately, when he had that bit with Hamilton up into turn 6 when the world champion had been slow, I believe, off at turn 2. He went from 4th to 8th pretty quickly, but got his elbows out when needed, done some good overtakes as well. He'd be happy getting P6, and it was his first time racing an F1 car in the rain, so you're not going to take that. Raikkonen finished P7. I know what you're thinking, give me a minute. Another solid weekend from the Finn, kept it clean, finished in P7, even set purple sector in quali 2 as well, which was phenomenal. But loses out on that P7 due to a post-race penalty to both him and his teammate Giovinazzi, who was in P8. The Italian does seem to be getting the grip of things now as the season goes on, and he done didn't do really anything wrong, didn't see too much of him, kept it clean, but he ended up with no points either, despite finishing 8th due to a penalty. Now, to what I've understood here, the penalties in regards to the start line procedure, and they're basically torque settings, different clutch settings, and it meant that the clutch held in, giving better traction off the line or something along those lines, and the difference was only like 20 milliseconds. But in these conditions, that could make the difference. It's a breach of the regulations. It's deemed, when it's done in that way, that it can be a mimic of launch control, therefore a driver aid. So they got 10-second stop-go penalties, both of them. Because it was post-race, that meant it was 30 seconds added in total, because it takes around about 18 to 20 seconds to come in and out of the pit lane as well. That dropped the amount of points, meaning it was Kevin Magnussen who would take P7 and Roman Grosjean that took P7. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up between the two Haas guys. Had near collision with Leclerc at the first pit stop phase, but did manage to keep it clean. Had a collision with Magnussen again, but good solid points. Even when he finished in P9, where he was originally, it was still solid points for the Frenchman. And there's rumours around though that he might get replaced during the summer break. There's talk it could be Ocon. The likely scenario could be Pascal Wehrlein, who does have a super license. He's a Ferrari development driver now, having been released by Mercedes from the start of the year. So Grosjean's basically fighting for his F1 life. So those points were definitely needed. Magnussen had a poor start to the weekend with that engine issue, but looked quick at certain points. Stayed out in the wets too long in the first stint, and then when he was on the slicks, he went onto them too late, meaning another early quick pit stop. Small collision with Grosjean as well, but again, more solid points, and Haas needed that after what's been going on recently. All of that with the Alphas meant that Hamilton went from P11 and ended up P9. Now his first stint, before everyone went total wolf basically, was brilliant. The way he managed those tyres was phenomenal. He looked like he was on for the win, but running wide during that safety car period when Leclerc went off, he'd done the same thing on the slick tyres, damaged the wing, team wasn't ready, couldn't react quick enough to it all, and then another spin, the penalty. Yeah, it was a tale of two races for Hamilton. It was a brilliant first part of the race, and the second half onwards was an absolute nightmare. But 2 points considering everything, and P10, ring the bells, hallelujah. Robert Kubica picks up the final point in 10th position. The Polish driver having his first wet race in 9 years. Williams done the same thing with both him and Russell. They were not tempted to go to slick tyres, stayed on the wet, stayed on the inters until it was absolutely necessary to get onto the slicks, and it worked out. Kubica finishing ahead of Russell for the first time as well. However, that did come about because Russell made a mistake in the last couple of laps on the greasy track, so that allowed the Polish driver through, or it could still have been Russell who was ahead. Russell would be just behind him in P11, same as Kubica with the first stint, stayed out too long. Small mistake at the end meant that Kubica's finally beaten him in a race, but upgrades have been good for Williams. They brought some upgrades this weekend. It has helped in the wet races, meant they finally got off the bottom, off the 0 points at least, and down there, which is brilliant. So anyone who's been listening to these will know I've got a bit of a soft spot for Williams. Gasly, oh dearie. Thought he was starting to get a grip of things until, Britain was a great race for him at Silverstone. Practice 1 looked not too bad, then he stuffed it in practice 2. Poor start as well. I don't know what's going on with Gasly. He just doesn't seem to have the pace in the midfield when his teammates flying up the front. It's just something going on. Rumours around his future as well. People talking about Kvyat might get re-promoted back up to Red Bull. What a story that would be. Albon might get put up as well. You never know. Honda are interested in getting a Japanese driver in at Toro Rosso possibly. You've got Yamamoto, I think it is, the current Super Formula champion, supposedly going to be doing some free practice runs towards the end of the year, so Gasly needs to be careful. He's another one, another Frenchman, fighting for his future. Bottas, didn't quite have the same pace to match Hamilton, but he managed to keep up and keep ahead of everyone else, pushing to pass Stroll when he crashed his first DNF of the season. Not what he needed, just wrapped up a horrible weekend for Mercedes, who were celebrating their 200th Grand Prix in 125 years in motorsport. And to make it even worse, Netflix were filming with Mercedes during the weekend because of the anniversary. Drive to Survive 2 is going to be fun when it gets to Germany, that's for sure. Hulkenberg, oh dearie, another one that I'm just, oh dearie. Kept it clean, was up at P2 at one point, but looking on for a good result until he ran wide and then jammed the brakes on the slippy surface and into the wall. When you consider that, for me, he's a main player in the 2020 market, he didn't need that, not at all. Leclerc was in with a good shout of the win before he made that mistake, because he was starting to catch Hamilton during that phase. He was up to second when he crashed, if I remember rightly. Ends a run of podiums that go all the way back to Canada. I think that was 4 in the bounce. I'm sure he'll bounce back pretty quickly, but that was not what he needed today. Norris started pretty much 19th back row after changing the power unit. Stayed out too long in the wets, and then not long after, he's lost the power. Not sure quite what's happened on that yet. Ricciardo, another one who looked on to be fighting for points until the engine failed. No doubt some grid penalties will be coming soon. The only good thing is, though, that was engine number 1. They swapped it out because they wanted engine number 2 for Hungary, feeling they'd have more luck there. And looks like it was a decent choice. And Perez spun on the second lap. Was in the top 10 in quali, and with Stroll being up in P4, you got to wonder just what could Sergio have done if he had not crashed out. Unbelievable stuff, but that was the race, and what a race it was. And I think that Hockenheim might not be here next year on the calendar, makes it a bit of a travesty. But we had a phenomenal race. It's been 3 good races in a row now. Hoping that can continue, because that is what we want to see when we're watching races. We want to see excitement. Championship standings: Hamilton's on 225, Bottas 184, Verstappen 162. He's closing up to the fin now. Vettel on 141, Leclerc on 120, Gasly 55. Sainz best of the rest in 48. Sainz is only weighing 7-8 points of Gasly. And you consider that there was a possibility that Sainz might have got brought back for that Red Bull drive. Makes you wonder. Kvyat now 8th on 27, Raikkonen on 25, and Norris tied with Ricciardo on 22 and 10th. Stroll's up to 12th place on 18, tied with Magnussen. It's Hulkenberg, Albon, Perez, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, Kubica and Russell down on 0. Mercedes on 409 points to Ferrari's 261. Red Bull on 217, then it's McLaren on 70. A little bit of a gap to Toro Rosso on 32. Renault down to 6 and 39. Racing Point up to 7th and 31. Haas on 26 along with Alfa Romeo. Williams have got 1 point. Hallelujah. That's what you like to see. 1 point for them. Fastest lap of the race went to Max Verstappen, so they managed to get the fastest lap of the race. Fastest pit stop, I'm not sure who took that one yet, but I get the funny feeling it might have been Red Bull, because I've seen a 2-second pit stop for them during the race. Next race review next week, Hungary, before the summer break. I quite like the Hungary track, it's not a bad one. Usually brings up some decent races from time to time. Hopefully next week will be a similar one. But that is it for the race review. Thank you very much for listening along. If you have enjoyed it, do hit subscribe for more race reviews and more sim and motorsport related content, along with some other random stuff in there as well. Until next time though, my name is Andy. Thanks very much for watching and listening, and I'll see you again soon. Ta-da.